Hello there. This is just a bite-sized peek into our comprehensive back-end development course, and I'm all about sharing snippets like this on our YouTube free of charge, so sit back and enjoy the video. But if you're interested in diving deeper, why not consider a Covalence community membership for just $25 a month? It's your golden ticket to a full-stack learning experience, curating all of these videos into a comprehensive course, complete with lecture notes, reference sheets, and challenging labs that are really going to push your learning into overdrive. But the perks don't end there. You're going to unlock the keys to our front end and our React, or my React course as well. Not to mention you're going to have access to live Discord support, meaning you can harass me all you want, exclusive coding events, plus professional assistance for crafting killer portfolios and resumes. Just think of it as your personal coding toolkit, ready and waiting to help you build your future. So check the description down below for a link, and remember, whether you're here for a casual browse or a deep dive, just enjoy the video. Hey y'all, welcome to our video. We're going to walk through and actually take some donation test payments with Stripe. Remember from the lectures, I did mention you should go and register, activate your email, set up two-factor authentication, all that fun kind of stuff. And after you're all said and done, you could go to their test dashboard, which again, until you access and activate your account with live data, we don't have to go that far for testing, remember. You will be stuck in test mode on their dashboard here. You can see I've been messing with it today to make sure that I was prepared for these walkthroughs. You will have this developers section testing as well, as we're going to find your API keys. So basically, between the documentation, this home dashboard, and in particular, this developers page here is where you're going to grab your API keys. So there's a additional nav key right here for API keys, where you can toggle between test and live keys. You don't have to worry about that. Where we have publishable and secret keys available, and I figured out they now have the ability to roll and expire them much easier, so I can't get trolled by a student that just pauses the video and tries to copy this down and mess with me. I'm going to have these remade before that even happens, like I talked about in the lecture, so I don't have to remember to come back here afterwards. All I have to do is just use the one that expires, and we're good to go. So this is where you're going to find your publishable key and your secret key required. So go ahead and grab a copy of our boilerplate, the TS React Express build from Covalence-IO. I'll make sure to include that down below in our lecture notes if you need it, but you should have it bookmarked by this point anyway, considering how often you've been using it in this course. So let's go ahead and grab a fresh copy. I know this will be very repetitive from the Mailgun lectures and walkthroughs we've already done, but I do believe that some repetition is good for learning, especially for newbies that are encountering some of this advanced stuff for the first time. Let's clone this project, and we're going to call it Stripe-Fun as the name of our project. Inside the Stripe-Fun project, we're going to go ahead and cd into it, and we're going to run a top-level install just to get everything good to go and ready and loaded up. Then, just like you learned from the lectures, we're going to install our libraries. It was Stripe, @Stripe.js, I believe, and then @Stripe React. Oh no, what was it? Why am I blanking? It was just Stripe.js. Okay, React Stripe.js. React Stripe.js. There we go. Those are the three libraries. Remember, they come included with their own typings, which is awesome. So we're also going to include .env in our process here, since this is a fresh clone, and I'm going to, even though in previous lectures and walkthroughs, I've pasted my key in directly, I'm not doing it for this one that's going to be going live onto our course. So I want to make sure that I practice proper protocol as well by not including my key unless it comes from an env file somewhere. So now that that's all installed and ready to go, let's go ahead and open up our code editors here and get underway. Oh my goodness, we're going to need React Router DOM so we can actually practice some routing stuff as needed. So let's go ahead and add that there as well. My bad. All right, now that we're there, like I said, coding out the back end was actually fairly straightforward. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to code out an env file to start. I'm going to call it Stripe API key. Is going to be a value that's going to take that secret API key from our dashboard. So I'm going to grab this one, click to copy my secret key that expires in 24 hours. So if you need to pause this video and go grab one yourself and set this up, I mean, by all means, go for it. So continuing on, that is the one API key I have available for this project. So I'm going to go ahead and close this file, open up my server-side code, and make my config folder, inside of which I'll make an index.ts file. Then we'll go ahead and say import.env from the .env library, .env.config, so we can start using that here. And we're going to export by default an object that we're going to reference as our config object. We're going to have Stripe as a subproperty, and maybe like API key will become from process.env Stripe API key, like that will correspond with our environment variable file Stripe. I'm just going to copy and paste to make sure I typed it correctly. Okay, good. So there we go. Again, set that up however you want, but this is what I recommend you do. So there we go. That's now set up correctly for our config.stripe.api key. Next, I don't have like a big crazy router, so let's go ahead and do the same thing. Let's just show you how you configure all this, because in the past, I've just coded everything out in my server.ts file and called it a day, but for learning purposes and repetition, let's practice stacking routes, because that's important to do. Import our router from ExpressArino. Const router equals a new Express routing middleware, router.use, export default router. That's going to throw in an error if the project's running, but I'm going to go ahead and just copy this code to paste it to make it easier. I'm going to make a new one. We're going to call it or maybe like, yeah, we could call it donate.ts. And inside of here, we're going to paste it. And then we're going to have this one be our router.post. This post is what's going to be to/payment intent, like that. Async rec res. Again, if you know how to do global error handling, you don't have to write the same error everywhere, but I know some of y'all don't know how to do that as of yet, so we're going to go ahead and just set up a classic, simple 500 message with something stupid like this. There we go. Easy enough, right? Now let's go ahead and load in two things. We're going to need our Stripe import from the Stripe. Did I not install Stripe? I should have. Okay, good. For some reason, the autocomplete wasn't happening, so I was curious if it was working or not. This one we're going to call capital S Stripe as well. So we're going to need our config, import config from up1 directory into our config directory. Const Stripe, lowercase, equals new uppercase Stripe with our config.stripe.api key loaded there. That's probably fine, and we're going to go ahead and include this part here. What's this messing up as? Oh, that's right. So in our config, if you ever see this error, argument type string or undefined is not assignable. So obviously, if the environment variable is not read correctly, this whole thing is going to crash. So we have a couple different ways to handle this. This is TypeScript. TypeScript is saying that, hey, as of right now, what if this isn't read? That would return undefined, and undefined is not a valid API key. So we can cheese it by doing a type assertion that will say, no, it will be a string. I'm going to guarantee it's a string, homie, and that's what gets rid of that error for our API key right there, okay? So from there, we need to provide an API version, which again will be 8.16 with how fresh this video is. And then from there, we're going to add a TypeScript property, optionally indicate that you're using TypeScript. This currently has no runtime effect other than adding TypeScript to user agent to true. There you go. So yeah, now we have our Stripe configured and ready to go using an environment variable. That's why I took all the time to set up our project this way. We can actually close that screen a bit more. There we go. So now that that's set up, let's go ahead and prepare our code. So I'll say const amount comes from the rec.body.amount. I have my express JSON added here, don't I? I don't. So make sure that you, somewhere before our routes, we're going to add app.use express.json in our code. Otherwise, we're going to be running into some problems generating a request body. That's going to be body parsers required. Classic rookie 101 mistake, forgetting your body parser. So that's what that's going to come from. It should be passed as a number. We probably should do some kind of condition and validation that says, hey, make sure amount is a valid number. We're just going to assume it is for now, and that's always a fun way to handle things. Const payment intent will be a promise awaiting our Stripe library using the payments intent API to create a new payment, passing in an object. The amount will be what comes from our request body amount multiplied by the smallest unit, which is a cent, 100 cents to $1. And we're going to provide our currency string, which is USD, as the requirements. There's that part. We're going to send a response back to our website that will have multiple properties like message, payment intent created. It'll be a 200 status code by default, I'm pretty sure. We're going to pass a client secret property. This could be just pizza. It's an object we're making up. But the important part is that the payment intent variable should have a client underscore secret, where we have to send to the front end. There we go. There's our express code now nicely written for us here. So, okay. The donate payment intent endpoint is now successfully created. Let's hook it up into our index. I'm going to import my donate router that we exported from the donate file, like that. I'm going to say on the path of /donate, please add the donate router. There we go. And then from there, in my server TS, I can now write import API router from /routes. That'll bring in that index file. And then in place of this API hello, I can do like app.use /API, API router. And that way, the full path will be localhost :3000 /API /donate /payment intent. So to get here, we have a post request to localhost :whatever /API /donate /payment intent. So the path is already a little different than my lecture notes, but again, it's up to you. Make up whatever you want. I'm just showing you one way of doing it. Okay. Now that we have that correctly set up, theoretically, we can go ahead and give this a shot towards our front end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close and collapse all my files. I'm going to move into the front end rather quickly here. So inside of our front end, remember, in our index.tsx, we needed the import statement for the Stripe injectable code, which was import at stripe.js. That should inject into our HTML, which we can test here by doing npm run dev. We're probably going to get tons of errors as we code this out as I run this development network. And we're going to go to the website here on port 8000, and voila, we just have that simple hello. The world is now gone because it's broken since I remove that API GET request there. But the whole purpose here is, out of curiosity, if we head over to our console window and look at our Elements tab, zoom in, head to the head of the HTML, and would you look at that? We didn't include that in the HTML. We can confirm. Head to public, no tricks up my sleeve. Look here in the head. There is no Stripe injected code, but this import statement is interpreted by ESBuild and brings in the appropriate. I can move this to the other Chrome window. I can combine them. There we go. Yeah, so check it out. Our head indeed has the Stripe script for fraud detection added to it. So now we are compliant with what Stripe requires of us. Very cool. Back to our code. So that will take care of that at the index level. Let's go ahead and head into our app and code out some pages here. So like I had mentioned, we're going to have some basic routing going on here. What I want to do in my app is go ahead and remove the base code that comes along with it. And we're going to go ahead and make two folders, a components folder. Again, this is not how you need to do it. This is just one way to do it. Not a new file. New folder, we'll make one called views. So let's make a new file for our home page. This will be something I'm going to copy and paste between a couple different pages now, so get ready. We're going to have interface home props is empty for now. Const home props, home props, empty for now. You can make the argument that that's not required if they're never going to get... That's weird. If they're never going to actually receive any props, like in my case, it won't. So the argument would be, why even provide ops interface or home props interface and the props argument if you're never going to use them from a TS perspective? I just like scaffolding it out to get ready and to get newbies like y'all along on the same page. It's going to return, surprise, surprise, some bootstrap real quick. It could be... And then inside of there, I don't know, don't care. Okay. There we go. So just some basic scaffolded out code for our home page here. We're going to copy it, make a new view, and we're going to call this one donate.tsx, paste the code in, change it from home, Control or Command D, to donate as a quick find and replace. There we go. Inside of views, new file, thanks.tsx, paste, thanks view, and this one will be what? It'll be like, thanks for your donation, semicolon, parentheses. So this will be our thank you page when we get that far to redirect in, for example. So, you can code that however you want. I don't care. This is a simple, just scaffolded together project. In our app, I can now go ahead and replace the code we have and throw in some React Router DOM. Routes, route, path, home, element, self-closed. Oh, sorry, my bad. Paste. Okay, so let's add our missing imports if it knows how to do so. I'm surprised it doesn't here. Add all missing imports. There we go. And inside of the element, it'll be our home page. Inside of /donate, it'll be our donate page or view. And this will be our thank you page, which will be our thanks component. So there we go. There are our 3 lovely paths for this component, all imported nicely up top thanks to autocomplete from TypeScript IntelliSense support. We have a lovely application here, but no way to actually route to these. I'm not coding out a whole nav bar, y'all. We're just going to make a quick set of links up here, not even nav links. Let's add that to our list of imported components. It doesn't have to be fancy. This one goes to the home page. I'll say home. This one will go to the donate page, and it will say donate. So there we go. There's our lovely application we got going on here. That's going to look terrible, but again, it gets the job done. So, ooh boy, there's the 2 links there. As we can see, it takes us to our home view and donate view, no problem whatsoever. All right, so we have our awesome app going on now. Again, this could be added to whatever lab you are looking to do. So moving on here, I'm going to collapse that public folder, get that stuff out of my line of sight. So inside of our donate view is where we're going to be setting up some of our front-end stuff for our components. What we're going to need to have here is our load stripe function from the stripe.js library. We're going to be importing our elements wrapping component from React Stripe.js. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my useState hook as well, but not useEffect. So we're going to be controlling some state here. So again, TypeScript's going to get mad at us, but I'm going to go ahead and get around it. We're going to say donation set donation is a useState call with a type of an object that will have amount string, a show boolean that will be defaulting to true on first load, and a client secret string we have to obtain from our post request. And I think it'll be able to infer what the type is here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, it did infer the type. So there's our state set and ready to go. Remember, in our return statement, we're going to be doing a conditional if-else return, where if donation.true or .show is true, we're going to return a very simple form. So it'll be a, and remember, yeah, it will be a, oh, why did I get rid of all that containerized code? Let's copy that back from somewhere. There we go. Inside of that div column, we'll do a form. I don't need my form action here. Inside of that, I'll have an input dot, I think it was form dash group or something like that. Form group. Was that what it was? Oh my goodness. It's something I don't remember from Bootstrap class names. Looking it up really quick. Looking it up. Form control, not form group. Form control was the one I wanted. There we go. All right. Like I said, that value will be the donation state dot amount. The on change will be that event that will call set donation using the callback syntax that takes the previous state object, implicitly returns a new object that spreads and maintains that part out. The amount property will be updated with the person typing our e.target.value. Control F to format to get back onto their one screen. There we go. There's our lovely input and our button. Bump it down. We'll say continue to checkout form. There we go. So this basically will allow us to move on to our checkout form as our code continues here. We know that our button's going to have to make that fetch request ultimately in our code here. So here's how she's going to work out, like we recall. Const handle payment intent creation or whatever will be an async, so we can use the await try catch syntax inside of here that will say e react.mouse event an HTML button element, prevent default. We should probably write a try catch. If some kind of error happens, just log whatever happens. Otherwise, we're going to do a const res equals await fetch to HTTP our server /API /donate /payment intent, the way I have it written in this walkthrough here with y'all together. New object with method post, a headers of content -type, application /JSON, because we're going to pass in this following body, which will be a JSON.stringify of an object for rec.body.amount will come from my donation.amount. Because it's a string value, I got to be careful. I'm going to parse it to a number like that. And voila, we have our request. Now, if res not okay, then I want to throw a new error. Yeah, it would be the response status or something like that. Res failed. There we go. Otherwise, that way it catches it and logs it down here. Otherwise, what it needs to do is it needs to get that client secret from our res.json response right there. That client secret will just be a string, and all I needed to do is set it to our state. So I'm going to say set donation, previous, implicit return, new object, spread, show false. Client secret will be ES6 shorthand with client secret, and there we go. So there's our code, just like from the lecture, handle out here. Let's go ahead and add this button. Click to our button element down yonder. On click, run, handle, payment intent. There we go. So remember, that was the if portion of our code. The else portion needs to render our checkout form, right? So I know I'm doing repetitive stuff here where I could do like the form in different ways, but just bear with me, y'all. We could also return this else statement down here. Return this code like that. We don't need all this stuff inside of it. We could choose to do the container and row here. There are other ways to do this that's a bit nicer in terms of repetitive layout, but again, this is meant to be a quick demo. I'll include that. So I'll make the checkout form just that part here. So remember, the checkout form will be a custom component, which will look like this at some point, but I don't have it rendered yet. So we're just going to simply render that for now as text until we actually make that component. So let's actually make our checkout form component. Checkout form.tsx. Inside of checkout form. I really should have had that in copy paste. Back to home, copy. Back to checkout form, paste. There we go. Change this from home props and home component to checkout form. There we go. My checkout form, my return statement, remember the row column stuff is already set there. So here will be simply a payment. Well, we'll do a div just to keep it simple. A div with our payment element component and a button element that says donate to me class, and we'll do button primary mt3. So let's go ahead and fix this import statement because payment element is not happy. So we're going to head up yonder and say import payment element from React Stripe library. We're going to need the two hooks as well. So we're going to bring in use Stripe and use elements. We're going to call them up top here in our code, use Stripe, const elements, use elements. Cool. We're going to go ahead and handle and add our handle donate submit. Will be an async function, so we could utilize some await syntax. React mouse event on HTML button element, just like in the previous code. Prevent the default from happening, and we're going to run some code. If Stripe or elements hooks failed to load, stop the component, add some logs, do whatever you need to do. Otherwise, we're going to destructure the error and await a promise to finish to Stripe confirm payment. confirm payment. Confirm payment, please. There it is. My goodness, there's so many bits of this API. I'm going to take an object with various properties that are required, such as elements, elements, shorthanded down to that, as well as some confirm params with a return URL that will take the Windows current location and go to /thankyou. That'll be the return URL. Just like the recommendation was, if error.type equals card error, or error.type is a validation error, we're going to log error.message of those particular errors. Otherwise, we're going to console log unexpected error or something like that. Who cares? Just some basic ideas or some error handling, however you want to do it, right? So that part is now set up. What we haven't done is provided the client secret, or we haven't added this button click yet. So let's go ahead and add that on click. Boom, paste, go. From there, we're going to head to our donate page again, because now I have to set up my checkout form, which will be right here. Checkout form. Now remember, this whole thing's going to crash unless I actually implement my elements. So we're going to have our elements component rendered here and our checkout form inside of that. Remember, elements, our component here, is the one that provides context to everything it wraps, aka our checkout form. So wherever we call useStripe and useElements, it must be wrapped inside of an elements container or component like that. So up yonder, we have to do our const stripe promise. It's a call to load Stripe that takes our publishable key back to the documentation. Grab my publishable key. That's a long one compared to the old one I had. Now that we have that set up, we can scroll down and say, hey, our elements will have a prop Stripe that will be the value from Stripe promise. And it also needs to have our options that will pass in an object with our client secret that will come from donation.clientSecret. The client secret from the donation state should be provided by this first part of the form where they click the button and we make a request to our server to create that payment amount. So with all that said and done, I'm sure I haven't tested much here, so there's probably going to be a typo along the way. We're going to debug something. So what I'm going to do is head back to my browser, head back to the browser and check out my developer portal. We're going to see some API requests happening here, I think. We can go look at our test data by going to payments, I believe. Yeah, so we're going to, let's do this one here. Let's do a different one. We'll do a different number for fun here. But my stupid tests I've done as of late for various webinars and students and practice runs for these videos. Let's make a new one and see if we can get it succeeding here. So here we go. Let's head back to our boilerplate code. We're going to go head home, hard refresh to get everything cleared out and ready to go. So this is our normal app, whatever's doing it. We go to a donate page. We want to donate, let's say, $10. That will convert to 1,000 cents. We're going to continue the checkout form. So clicking this, post to our server, create a payment intent via Stripe communication. Stripe sends back the payment intent. We daisy chain the client secret. That informs the elements component. It loads the checkout form. We do alternating 42424242, alternate 4242, alternate 4242. That last expiration was a 4, hence why the CVC is a 2. There we go. And if we donate successfully, it should reroute us unless an error happens. And there we go. The whole thing seemingly worked. You can look up here in your URL bar. You can see the payment intent client secret, redirect status succeeded. You could use any of these URL parameters to your advantage in terms of what you're displaying or how you redirect. If we head back to our portal and refresh it, we got a $10 donation with that correct. We'll notice here this payment intent description is the same one that's up in our URL bar, post redirect, PI3N. Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, we got it working. This is really, really up to date. So, like less than 10 days ago, this API version came out. So y'all have the most up-to-date way of writing this code. So that wraps it up for this walkthrough. The lab in this part of the course will simply ask you to it'll simply ask you you should code along with this walkthrough. So if you've gotten to this point of the walkthrough you've been watching, you should honestly do a fresh boilerplate clone and try and write this out. After you figure out the fundamentals of how it works, then go and the lab will ask you to take one of your existing labs, the full stack blog lab, and add this as a new feature. You may be over that blog lab at this point and adding random features to it, but be prepared, there is still more on the way in terms of authentication. Just like you added Mailgun to it in the previous lab, the point is that you need to keep iterating and adding new features as you can learn them, add them to new code bases, add them to old code bases, because that's the best way you're going to learn. So see y'all in the next video, whatever that might be.